Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our Global Retail Conference 2025, presented by WeSave, a transformative platform shaping the future of global retail and e-commerce. As one of the largest and most influential initiatives in the industry, Global Retail brings together visionary leaders to address the forces transforming retail, technological innovations, sustainability, and evolving consumer expectations. Over the next few days, we will explore groundbreaking ideas, actionable strategies, and leadership insights that redefine commerce. This is more than a conference, it's a call to action to lead with purpose, collaborate effectively, and drive meaningful impact. So welcome back to our Global Retail Conference. So now joining us from New York here this morning is Nicolas Geiger. He is a board member at Luxitan Group, and his talk this morning is going to be Blueprint for Success, Navigating Acquisitions in the Beauty Industry. So good morning, Nicolas. Good to see you. Thank you.
Good morning, Glenn. Thank you for the introduction.
Let me hand it off over to you, and I will join you on the other side. Thank you.
Yes. So, the beauty industry has tremendously changed and accelerated over the last, 20 years. 25, 30 years ago, one needed to probably buy a factory if it was to launch a cosmetic brand. That means that the barriers to entry were quite high. And typically, when my father, Reynold Geiger, acquired the majority stake at L'Occitane, what he did is he didn't just buy a brand, he bought a factory. Because you needed a lab, you needed manufacturing, and it was difficult. Over the last 30 years, a number of contract manufacturers have completely revolutionized the industry, making it fairly easy to cater for new marketing people to launch their own cosmetic products. And this is why over the last 10 years, we've had, certainly in the United States, probably one or two new cosmetic brands every other week. The barriers to entry are really low. Having said that, you still need to make a good product, and making good products is certainly and will always be the most and foremost important element for you to be successful in an industry. Having said that, there are so many good products nowadays that the reality is it's not enough. What we also discovered is that, and we developed that kind of framework whereby for a brand to be successful, it needs three main pillars. And we, as group, to make an acquisition, also look for what I call the plus one, where some of our experience can help that company. So the 3+1 framework that we've developed over the years is basically the following. First, of course, we need to look at the product. We need to look at the quality of the formulation, the quality of the product. It is not possible today to be successful with an average product. People will not buy product again, despite the frenzy or the marketing effectiveness. The second thing you need is an ability for a brand to what I will call cut through the noise. Now in social media, also the ability in TikTok or in Instagram for brands and influencer people to develop content, the barrier to entry is very low. Everyone can do that. And so and it creates a lot of noise, creates a lot of content. How do you make sure that that brand has that je ne sais quoi, as we say in French, that is making it different, that is making it not a Me Too brand? Today, in order for you to cut through the noise, one needs to, with the product, with the purpose of the brand, with the innovation, have an ability to stand out from the crowd, and that can turns into many different shape and forms, but it's really important when looking at a business to have a strong and clear, I would say, strong and clear opinion and strong and clear point of view on why is this brand different, or why is this product different, and why is it going to be able to cut through the noise, i.e. why when you put hard marketing money, it actually is able to be more cost effective than any other brand. Because, you know, today, anyone can, you know, launch a brand and put its product online and launch it, but then acquiring customers is very difficult because it's so noisy. The last I would say pillar on this is really what we're going to call the distribution strategy. You know, online allows you to sell your product, even though the cost of acquisition can be difficult. You're cutting through the noise, you're building community, but at some point, that online pure player will reach a glass ceiling. You know, we, especially after the COVID with a revenge buyback, we as consumers, we are human animals. We are social animals. We need to interact with people. We need to touch things, and at some point, just the pure online is not really sufficient. You need to have a good, clear, and credible omni-channel strategy, whereby the size of your ambitions is reconciliated with your, you know, connections or ability to scale your business. Today in the beauty industry, in the United States, you know, it is very difficult to scale without one of the big retailers, whether it would be, you know, Ulta, Sephora for the premium brands, Target, or some other retailers like Walmart for the more mass brands. Because without that retail footprint, without that access to consumers, the cost of acquisition online only is becoming too expensive. There's also obviously some brands that decide to develop their own retail network. In itself, own retail is fantastic because you are able to be in an environment whereby, you know, you have control over your price, you acquiring customers with retail foot traffic, but of course scaling a you know, network of you know, brick and mortar retail takes a lot of capex and takes some time as well, and it's to some extent an additional you know-how to acquire on top of knowing how to do cosmetics. I think you know, again, the three pillars for a successful brand: a good products, an ability to cut through the noise with some marketing efficiency, and a clear and consistent distribution strategy that is kind of in phase with the product and the marketing strength. The plus one is we obviously have been manufacturers also for, you know, over 30 years. We are, you know, in 30 or 35 countries with an affiliate. We sold in 90 countries, so we have a lot of experience. We also know a lot of the key retail partners, whether it's Ulta, Sephora, Amazon, and so we are able also to, because of experience, when we look at the business, very quickly help them be more effective and more efficient. I'm not saying that we are the L'Occitane group similar to what I will call M&A groups in the cosmetic world, which is companies like L'Oréal or companies like Estée Lauder, whose ability to acquire a company and then kind of integrate them very quickly to maximize some of the efficiencies and create synergies. They are absolute professionals in doing that, or maybe a P&G or Unilever as well. We were not, okay? We are more a club of entrepreneurs, but where we gain a lot of efficiency is basically cross-fertilization of good idea, whether it's in marketing or benchmark from suppliers, or ability in procurement to combine or procurement power, and that is, you know, quite classic. Yet we like to develop an ability for each one of our brands to be very independent and to go at its own speed. We are more a group, a club of entrepreneurs wanting to grow fast and take risks, calculated risks, rather than an actual, big group. I think, the last point is, over the last 5-10 years, there's been so many brands that have been able to scale quickly using Sephora or using online or using Amazon, and reach a size of 100 million profitable, with 1 or 2 products, and not much more than this. That's absolutely amazing, and these entrepreneurs are fantastic. But it's true that at some point, if you don't have a vision for your business beyond 100 million, where you are clear on how to go through the next steps in a profitable way, it will get difficult to find interested acquirer, because there have been so many businesses that managed to scale and grow very quickly, but now they are reaching a kind of, again, glass ceiling. Rather, the distribution strategy is not working so well, whether they need to innovate more in the products. And so it's true that you in order for you to make a good sale as an entrepreneur, you need to have a plan. Doesn't mean that the plan has to be perfect, but you need to have a vision for what you want to do, and where you want to be. And the reality as well is, scaling a cosmetic business, in Europe is becoming more and more difficult because of the complexity of Europe. And the US will always be kind of the most exciting and the most impressive market for you to scale your business. You can scale to 100 million easily. Of course, it's not easy, but much more easily than in Europe. And so I think that it means that any business you're looking at, the US market will always be so important, and an ability to be successful in the US will always be key for any business that wants to scale to a size above 100 million and be able to go international. Right, Glenn, I think that's about it for me so far. I don't know if I've been clear, I hope, and if there are some questions.
Yeah, no, thank you, Nicola. Very, very, very informative, very informative. Couple observations, some personal. My family, we used to be all boys. Now my mother's laughing from heaven. It's turned the corner. Now it's all girls. So all of your beauty comments are quite relevant to our recent Christmas holiday experience, where you asked, like, for the daughters and the granddaughters, well, what would you like for Christmas? And my 9-year-old granddaughter is collecting Sephora and Ulta gift cards. So she's out stockpiling as a 9-year-old the cosmetics. It's interesting what you said about on the distribution side. I found pretty fascinating, and I've always been a big believer. I like to think of myself as a people person. Online is wonderful, and it's quick. And God, there's some days I open up I haven't even gone out for the morning paper. Yeah, I still get the paper at home. And the Amazon drop off has already happened, right? 5:30 in the morning, 6 in the morning. So I mean, the turnaround time for those types of things are incredible. But still, as you said, especially coming out of COVID, the ability that people want to reconnect and have that experience, I think still, is an important part of the consumer.
Beauty is made of sensorial experiences, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah,
And the reality is, we put creams or things on our hair or perfumes, but and when we hope that it's going to make us look younger and more beautiful, and sometimes, most of the time, it does, of course, but it's still, everything's relative. And so that's sensorial experience is absolutely crucial. It needs to make you feel good about yourself, and sometimes, having a human interaction with someone that makes you discover something that you didn't know, because there's all the things that you don't know, that are there out there, and at some point it's nice to have some external person and some interaction.
Oh, I remember back in the day, in the old days when Barney's the clothier still existed here in New York. I had a regular salesperson that when it was time, I went to him, and he knew what I liked, and I loved the interaction when we had the Hickey Freeman made to measure sale, and he would bring out the fabrics, and we would do all of that, and that touching, and I know we have a local smaller business. I guess it's a chain, but the local storefront in my town, and it's about you walk in and they remember who you are. Oh, we've got those candles you like, or we've got that lotion that you like, or the shampoos, and they have like a whole kind of counter, if you will, where we
I
sell
mean,
them.
this is why today the most important thing is for a business to think about their omni-channel strategy, straight on.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
much easier to start on a blank page with an omni-channel mindset, because it's the only way you can make a successful business at some point, you know?
Well, yeah, I do some teaching, and I teach entrepreneurship, I teach management, and we're always talking about barriers to entry. So, as you said, back in the day, if the factory was going to be that barrier, now it's gotten a lot easier with the advent of contract manufacturers. Now, Nicola, you mentioned how, again, scaling wise, you said it's the U.S. is generally quicker than Europe. What makes Europe a little bit slower?
Because you don't have a Sephora Ulta that has an ability to make these sales. Of course, you can, Sephora is owned by a French company, but it was originally an American company. Sephora has many shops in Europe, but the reality is it's really good in 2 or 3 markets in Europe. And that's in itself, when you look at the total, kind of retail sales of these 3 Sephora markets in Europe, it's probably less than half of what the US is. And you still are in
Okay.
3 markets with 3 languages,
Mm. Yeah,
So
yeah.
that, the reality is the EU market, and I'm European, I'm a super pro-European guy, but I've also known and started to notice the limitations of the market, whereby so much regulation and so much difficulty to scale, where in the US, you go from 0 to 100 so much quicker. And it's just a fact. So there are number 1 market in the world is the US, number 2 is China, but China is today becoming less interested in I would say European or Western products in general, and the market is down. Then after it's Japan, an amazing market, very difficult to crack, but it's beautiful. And then it's Brazil, and Brazil is a huge barrier to entry, lots of tariffs. So then suddenly you're arriving at France or UK. I think it's UK first, and then France, and these markets are much smaller already. So you don't have that many markets to scale.
Yeah, so down the ladder. So Europe is closer to 7 or 8 or 9. It depends. You said
No,
Malaysia
but
would
Europe together is bigger, but I'm talking single markets in
yeah.
Europe.
Yeah, no, nation states, 100%, 100%. Absolutely. You also reminded us, which I think this is important too, especially when you think about scale, is, revenues are one thing, but profitability is another, right? At the end of the day. I mean, I remember when I worked at the New York Stock Exchange in the early days, going up to my boss and saying, look at this great company we should list. It's got $1 billion of revenues. And he goes, yep. And then he points to the next number. He goes, see that? I said, yep, 1 billion in costs. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, I could touche. I get it. I get it. You're right.
The reality is, it's a high margin business. It's a high margin industry. So, and again, scaling is difficult and has its limitation. And it's not a SaaS business. A SaaS business, your cost base is, X, and then you can do 10X if everyone uses your software. Amazing, Um, and your revenue, like your cost base, the fixed costs don't increase. So then you're going to be profitable, and you can look for scaling. That's not the case with the cosmetic business, you know? And so I'm out in business, and I mean, we've seen examples of businesses, and I don't want to name any business to kind of, but we've seen businesses that decide to scale, but since marketing is probably the most important element to help grow and scale a cosmetic business, if you are spending marketing unprofitably, you're never getting profitable. You're never going to be profitable. You
Right,
don't know how to
right.
be. So you can burn 30-40 million dollars, and you scale your revenue, but if you don't know how to make money with your marketing spending, then you don't have a business model, basically.
On your side, for looks a ton, Nicola, when you evaluate potential deals or transactions, um, how important is, like you mentioned, one of your pillars is the quality of the formula. I assume a lot of that is intellectual property based.
Yes.
How significant is that as part of your due diligence?
I mean, it's very important. I mean, basically, um, the way it works now is contract manufacturers understood that at some point they will need to give away the IP of the good businesses, because you will not, as a group, acquire a company without IP on the formula.
Mhm.
Literally, it's like, and so what they do is they say, okay, I'm formulating for you brand X, and if you are doing X millions of volumes with me as a manufacturer for you, after 3 years or 5 years, you have the IP. Okay, and you transfer the IP, and then you actually you own the formula. And
Mm.
obviously, the contract manufacturer has, when they did this formula, they could copy you. I mean, it's always possible to copy a formula, but a formula has that little magic recipe every time. So once you give away the formula, it's very difficult to reproduce or copy for someone else. Okay. The reality as well is, that's why that marketing piece is very important. There's a lot of very similar products nowadays. So what's different about your product, not just in terms of formula, but also in terms of sensuality, in terms of fragrance, in terms of packaging. And it's a package that you do together to be able to cut through the noise. And not
Yeah.
just because you have influencers, but also because your value proposition has a different je ne sais quoi, as we say.
Yeah, yeah. No, I was going to mention we'll bring up the why are you different? How do you stand out in what might be a crowded marketplace? It's that, as you said, it could be the scent, it could be the look, the feel. All of that becomes rather important.
I mean, because of the barrier to entry, for many years, it was a kind of a high growth, high margin, not too crowded industry where if you knew what you were doing, that was really nice and easy. Of course, you have some winners, and L'Oreal is clearly a winner in this, and they're an extremely good company. Yet, what's clear is many of the legacy brands are challenged because you have a whole generation of your granddaughters who are not interested at all with the legacy brands. And they're looking for all these new up and coming indie brands that are talking to them and have a new way of interacting with this public. And so what's going to happen in 10 years is going to be very interesting, or 5 years, because in 5 years, how much of these nice and really high growth indie brands are going to take market share from the legacy brands? We don't know. And then L'Occitane is a legacy brand. Huh? It's close to 50 years. And so we are kicking ourselves in the butt sometimes to make sure that we continue to engage with our younger generation. And it is tough. It is tough. It is possible still, I think.
But do you have any? That's an interesting point. Do you have any advisory groups? How do you tap into that market, the influencer market? You think of like digital, right? Or mobile, that mobile society we have now.
I mean, it's complicated, and it's part of a secret sauce that I'm not going to reveal. But the
Okay,
reality is,
fair enough.
you have to have an idea about creating a community. Nowadays,
Yeah,
you don't have like brands need to have their own community, their tribes. Okay, and if you manage to create their tribes, then tribes are very good at recruiting. People within their tribes, and they identify. A product is a statement of who you are as a person. A smell, And that's kind of the way you do marketing that's changed. Before, it was just all about efficacy, or all about prestige, or all about, oh, it's that couture brand. No, now it's about, what does my brand stand for, and what is the tribe that I'm entering when I buy this product.
No, that makes perfect sense, and we see that across whether it's beauty or clothing, like I mentioned Hickey Freeman earlier, or you think of hotel brands, right? They're selling experiences now. It's not just whatever the room rate is. It's here's how you feel when you walk into that property, right? And as you said, you're surrounding yourselves with others that think that way or interact that way, and community is
I
so
mean,
important.
if you look at your marketing department and all you have is 50-year-old executives, then you're gonna have a problem, because I mean, with
Yeah,
all respect to 50-year-old executive, I'm a bit younger than this, but the reality is, then if you only have young people, it's also an issue. I believe in diversity in all this sense. You have to have experience, you have to have methodology, but you need to be able to you know let your team have that young person has a voice and understand how to connect with that generation.
I was at because I know you're a board member. I was at a directors meeting a bunch of years ago, and I remember it was a panel discussion, mostly public companies, but the board member proudly mentioned that we have our first board member under 45. So I guess all right, you gotta start someplace.
Exactly.
Gotta start someplace. You mentioned customer acquisition. Obviously, that's it can be costly, right? Um, as you look at that, when you're dealing on a transaction front, um, how much repurposing of what? So let's say it's a particular brand that you're looking at, or a formula like you mentioned. How much do you go in and completely change what they did and say, you know what, that's a nice start, but I think we have a better approach.
I mean, we don't. Some other do. We don't do that. We
Okay.
normally, generally, will, you know, go into a brand that we feel a founder and the actual team of is we spend a lot of time with that founding team to see if they can fit with our group,
Okay.
or club of entrepreneurs, I call it, and we want to feel, we need to feel that they have that strong desire of acquiring customers in a way, in a shape or form that is different, innovative. That's how we look at this.
Yeah.
That's how
Well,
we look at it.
you're in
We
good
don't look at
company
me too
then.
brands.
You're in good company because that's the way Warren Buffett manages his businesses, right? He partners with the people and he lets them, if they see eye to eye, if they have the same vision, he lets them run with it. So good for you. Good for you. Well, Nicola, thank you for joining us. Terrific conversation. Really enjoyed our time together. We wish you and the Luxitan Group lots of success in the future, and thanks for sharing all your insights with our audience today.
Pleasure. Have a good
All
one.
right. See you next time. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.